Hello, 3 very long years ago I made these videos here about a halftone effect using geometry nodes in Blender. Now, just a few hours ago somebody commented on one of those videos and asked how do you do this now with the newer version of geometry nodes, because some nodes have changed. Some of the nodes, like the transfer attribute, is not longer available. So how do you do it? I fired up Blender, tried it out, and let me show you. It's actually easier than it used to be 3 years ago. So here I am in Blender 4.5. This should also work in 4.4, and of course also in 5.0, which is currently in alpha. I'm just gonna select everything and delete everything and create a mesh plane. And let's just jump over to geometry nodes and create a new node tree. I'm not going to use the input geometry. I'm just going to create my own grid, just like I did 3 years ago. And this is going to be 2 by 2 meters. That's actually not very important, but I want 100 by 100 vertices. And if I switch on wireframe, you can see now we have this grid. Now this grid is just so that we can instance something onto each point in the grid. Let's instance points of, for example, an icosphere. That is way too big, of course. So I don't know, 0.01 gives us a bunch of icospheres. Okay, now we need to get in our image or video sequence. Let me switch this over so you have a bigger picture. So I can drag in a picture or a video, and I'm just gonna use the same square video of my wife that I used back in those older tutorials. Just gonna drag that in from the file explorer. This now is a video. So how do we use this color information on our icospheres? Well, we can set an attribute. We can store a named attribute. What do we want to store? We want to store a color, and we store it on each instance. So we're using instancing here, and these are just instances. So on each instance, we store a color value. We name it col, okay? And of course we need the material. So let's go over to the materials, create a new one. Let's call it Kelly, because that's my wife's name. And we're gonna go to material, set material, and we actually use that material. Now, okay, so we stored it to the instance, we named it col, perfect. Let's go over to shading. And in the shading tab over here, switch off the overlays. I don't want a principled shader, I'm gonna use an emission shader instead. And for the color, I'm gonna use a named attribute, which is a color, and I called it col. Okay, so this should be, oh, I have to switch this to instancer. Okay, so we assigned it to the instance, the color. Now in the shader over here, we take the color from the instance. So that's basically that. Now, as you can see here, we sort of have a bit of an issue with our UV map. Let me just switch this over to a 3D view, rendered view without overlays. So this is what it looks like. Now, the cool thing in the current version of geometry nodes is that the primitives also give you a UV map. So if you go to mesh primitive cube, as you can see, it also gives you a UV map. And our grid here also gives us a UV map, and we can use that as the input vector for our image texture. If I hit spacebar, we should see a video. No, we can't see a video because we have to plug the frame in here so that this image texture actually takes the scene frame from our animation. So now we have a video playing. Cool. And those are just single color dots, instances, icospheres. Of course, we could also do, instead of icospheres, we could do a cylinder. So let's create a mesh primitive cylinder. Let's bring that down, maybe 8 vertices. The radius, what was it, 0.01, 0.2 for the depth, and use that in here instead of the icosphere. So now we have cylinders. Okay. Also over here, of course, these are now cylinders. And we could also plug the color into the scale here so that we're actually scaling the cylinders based on the color. Of course, the color, think about it, if this is RGB, or red, green, blue, and the scale is a vector XYZ. So if we plug this in here, it's now scaling the X based on the red and the Y based on the green and so on. If you don't want this, we kind of have to convert the color into grayscale. I don't know how we can do that. Maybe I don't know, vector math length. Well, yeah, it's one way to get a grayscale value. So now we're uniformly scaling. If you just want to scale probably just want to scale the C, then we can combine XYZ and use that just for the C and use this for the scale. Oh, we need one on the X and the Y, of course. Okay, so what does that look like? Looks like this. We could bring this scale down maybe a little bit, 0.5. Yeah, okay, so now we have cylinders. This looks very freakish. But we have cylinders, and if I hit spacebar, they should be moving. Are they not moving? Yeah, they're moving. Oh, this whole video sequence is only like 120 frames long. That's why nothing was moving. So, spacebar again. This is the video with the cylinders scaled based on the brightness and the color assigned based on the color. And on top, from top view, looks like this. Actually, those are a bit small now. Yeah, so looks like that. Cool. So this is the node tree. This down here is just for scaling. So we take the length, combine. So this is for scaling. And this assigns the color, and we use that inside of our shader, which is very simple. We just take the color from the instance. And that's it for this quick update on how to create this halftone effect in Blender 4.5 using the current geometry nodes. Subscribe and support below. Thanks for watching. See ya.